Somerville. Fun game. Crazy. I would say, of the three, if we're going, Limbo, Inside, Somerville, I would say that I have to like pull back ancient memories of the 360 days. Speaking of 360, saw the Nintendo Direct today. That was today for me. Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Marvel vs. Capcom Collection. Crazy times we're living in. But Limbo, Inside, Somerville. Of the three, or if I'm ranking the three, since we're going with the three games, I would probably go, it's been a long time since Limbo, but I remember enjoying it a lot. I'm trying to think like story-wise and all that stuff and the interest I have and the mystery and things like that. Gameplay-wise, I would probably go with Limbo, because I feel like Limbo actually had the most like puzzle stuff, even when I think about Inside, because it took like 3 hours. Granted, it probably took longer for Limbo because I was also younger, and I think Limbo really was like this company was like the first people that ever made a game that was like that. They changed things around when they made that game. And it was like, oh, okay, that's different. So I'd say gameplay wise, I would probably still choose Limbo just because it had the most actual puzzles in it. After that, it's kind of tough because I feel like I'd have to go in order of the game's releases. I would say Limbo's the best, Inside's the second, and then Somerville would be my least favorite overall. And it mostly comes down to the actual puzzles. I feel like you don't really do much in Somerville. I feel like there were a lot more puzzles. There were definitely tougher puzzles and more puzzles in Inside. And so, look, once again, if I go back to Limbo, if we're going like gameplay and full aesthetic, I would have to give it to Limbo. And despite, all three of them have like that weird, just like, oh, that's kind of the end. Although I will say, because I did that second go around where I just held down for the purple power, Somerville does have an actual ending where I would say I am still making it up in my head, because now it's like slightly confusing, but I guess it was the aliens trying to connect to the guy. Although I guess that's not that crazy, because when you die, it's specifically because of the attachment on the hand, so maybe that was always kind of how that was. So I guess that does make sense. So story-wise, I guess it does make sense when you do it that way. Still crazy though. I mean, I'm still just like, dang, they died. They didn't make it. Like his wife, she's dead. His son, he's dead. The dog somehow lived. So I don't know. I guess that's supposed to be the thing. If the dog lived, I guess that's supposed to be your good ending, to show you like, hey, the dog, like, why would the dog magically live out, beyond the two humans? So it's like, if the dog lived, then that means they all lived. Just, the dog got there first, and because it's a dog, he's running ahead and stuff. So if we're going theoretical happy ending, because they don't actually show the wife and the son, they totally should have done that to not leave it open. That would have been super cool if they did that, where like they're all back at the home. That would have actually been pretty awesome. But they show the dog, so I'm just gonna go with the super duper good potential ending, that the dog is there, the wife is there, the son is there. They somehow magically live from if not only being surrounded by the dogs, but also on top of a crumbling bell tower. Because even the dog, I'm just like, well, that's crazy that the dog is there. I didn't even think of that until just now. Like, it's crazy that the dog would even have lived through that, like I said, beyond the humans. They're at the top of a crumbling tower while surrounded. But that's kind of what the good ending, we'll call it. That's what the good ending showed. The tower fell and it was starting to like wither away, and the dog was back home. So the dog lived. We have to go with all three of them live. So I guess you could say we do have the most definitive ending and actual story from this one. Inside was just ridiculous, where like, and I'm gonna spoil it at this point. Now that we're at the end of Somerville, I'm gonna spoil it, the end of Inside, because I didn't want to, just in case people hadn't played it, but now I'm gonna spoil it because I've kind of given most of my thoughts on Somerville. The end of Inside, you literally just like end up meshing into like a blob of mass and other human bits and pieces, and you're just like a blobby coagulate of body parts, and you just roll around, and then you break out of this place, and then you just roll on down to the beach, and then the game just goes off. And I'm like, I don't understand and that's how that ends. That's how I feel about Inside. I just don't understand. I do not understand. It started off where I was like, okay, people are like mind controlled. It's weird factory stuff going on. Things are a little wonky. It's weird. And then you just become a part of this mass, and it's like, that's also kind of effed up. Like, so does the kid is he like dead? Is it a hive mind massy blob? I don't know. We went to the beach and then the game went off. But it had a buttload of puzzles that I thought were really interesting, and Somerville basically had none. Like, this one really, and that's why it has to be my least favorite. If we're actually going off of like the gameplay element of it, visually, it's definitely my favorite one. 100%. I want to look at this one more than any of the other ones, without a doubt. Limbo, obviously, when it came out, had like amazing aesthetic of the black and white, but visually speaking, Somerville is 100% my favorite one to look at. And I, of course, like Aliens. The alien idea of like, it's not War of the Worlds where it's like, oh, mass hysteria and all this stuff. It's like you're out in the country and then it's just like, what the F is that pillar? And then there's aliens. And then there's a lady that comes down and puts her hand out. Boom, you get knocked out. You wake up a couple days later, we'll say. And then you go through, you hit up Bonnaroo. There's aliens, people dying. There's like one person in a tent. There's a couple people here and there. Get saved, get new powers, keep on keeping on. Fun to look at. Some of the puzzles did get me, of course. Like, obviously there were a couple puzzles there that I was definitely confused by, and then that one part where I was confused because I thought it was a part of the puzzle, because the last time it was a part of the puzzle to get the little orbs to follow me. So that messed me up because I didn't understand that. I was like, no, these are the color things. So that was on me. But I enjoyed the puzzles, but they weren't, I definitely wouldn't say that they were super challenging if I'm going through the process. And in all honesty, when I got stuck at the part with the car, I was like, okay, well, what do I have to do? Like, do I go, is this supposed to be like a tent that I hide under? I was literally just supposed to go in the water, and that was it. And I just couldn't tell because I'm like, well, the light, it seems like it spans a certain distance, and then it was just like, oh, I guess it doesn't. And then all I had to do was just walk forward. It wasn't even a puzzle. I kind of made it a puzzle myself, thinking there was something extra to do, when all I had to do was just walk forward. So that wasn't even a puzzle. I just got confused, thinking there was something to do. It was literally just like, no, just walk down. It just looked like the light covered it, and I was just wrong about that. So that wasn't a puzzle. I was just wrong there, and that was it. Just like being wrong about the orbs right after. Like, it wasn't really a puzzle. I just made that take longer because I screwed up myself. But they had some stuff, the one where I had to kind of half melt the thing. Didn't know I could do that. I thought it was either it's completely solid or it's completely liquid. I thought I had to figure out like a half measure, and that the half measure was like moving it out of the line of sight of the lights and stuff like that. And it was like, no, you just do it halfway. Like, you hold it down and then you let it go a little, and then that's it. And it's like, oh, I didn't realize that was a thing, because nothing had led me up to that. Everything was like, just completely melt this and then boom, just shock it back into rocks. So I didn't really get that. But that confused me, and I still had fun with it, even though it was very different than what I thought. It was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. So I like that puzzle. Other than that, it was kind of just, you duck when the lights are coming, and that's really it. Like, I think that's the only one I can think of where I was like that. And the one in the well, it took me a second to figure out, where I was like, I have the concept down. There are a couple parts where it was like, I kind of got the concept, but I was only like halfway there. And I think, even that one, I think that was only twice when I ended up doing that. But those are only two parts that really stand out as far as the actual puzzles. I genuinely, I just beat the game. I went through the whole thing. I really couldn't tell you much as far as the other puzzles, because I'm like, were there other puzzles for real? Or was it really just point A, point B? Because that's how it felt through most of the game. And if it was like that, I don't know. Oddly enough, I think this one probably should have had combat, or at the very least more defensive moments. Like kind of how we had that one moment where we had to like shock the thing, the like alien cyber dog. I think there should have been more moments like that where there's an actual enemy, even if it's just the dogs throughout, and like the dogs and then the lights. Even if it's just stuff like that, I think that should have happened way more than once. Like the part where we actually go through and deal with them, that literally happened once. I was expecting that to happen quite a few times. If I'm being totally honest, I was actually shocked that it was like only one time. And then you have like the chase sequences, but as far as like the puzzle element of interacting with those enemies, and like we froze one, and I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. Literally doesn't happen again. That's it. You do it that one time, and then you never interact with them in that way ever again. You don't have to worry about like them being huddled up. You don't have to distract one and then like freeze the other and then wait for this one to come back and then freeze them both. It's like none of that. You freeze that one and it's like, oh, that's cool. I'm surprised you could do that. You'll never do it again. And stuff like that is where it's like, oh, that really falls short. You're looking forward to having that become a part of an actual puzzle where it's like, okay, I know I can do that. What do I do in order to make it happen now? Excuse me. So I will say it's definitely disappointing in that regard, simply because of the puzzles. Excuse me, or lack thereof, I should say. But I love looking at it. Love the obelisks. These bad boys, if I find my footing. Love those bad boys. Those look sweet. But all in all, it's unfortunate. I still enjoyed my time with it, so don't get me wrong when I say that. But like, if we're going through like being analytical about the game, especially in comparison to the other two games of this ilk, it definitely falls short when you look back on it, where it's like, I love looking at it. I love the visuals. Like I said, my whole thing was like, man, I love the sound design and I love the visuals of like actually changing the stuff. But it's not like the puzzles were difficult, like in any way, shape, or form. It was just like, okay, I have to do this and I have to do that. And then once you do it, it's like, all right, well, that's not really a challenge. You just melt something and then you make it solidify. Then you move forward. You don't really deal with that with the enemies. It's not like there's not a single moment where an enemy comes towards you and you're supposed to like melt something to make something fall on them. They don't do that at all. There's not a single moment where that happens, or where any variation of that in any way, shape, or form. Like I said, aside from that one moment where we freeze we're gonna say the alien cyber dog. I'm gonna say it every time. Aside from that one time, there's nothing. You run from them. Serpentine does not work in this. But aside from running from them, that was the only moment where you really interact with them. That's it. You hide from them, or it's this scripted chase sequence, and then that one little scripted like puzzle moment. I mean, all puzzle moments are scripted, but that little moment, and then that's the only time it happens. They don't ever have, like I said, you have to distract one, you have to find some way to freeze two of them at the same time. Nothing like that. Like, there's so many combinations I could think of where it's like you have just the two powers. Like, I mean, obviously the third power is literally just like the game ender where you kill the aliens with it. So just the two powers that they had, they really don't use them to the extreme. Like, there's nothing where it's like, oh man, this is super tense. There's like an enemy coming at me. There's one of these cyber dogs coming to kill me. I don't have any weapons. I just have my powers. This thing is being held up by this, but I have to time it right. If I don't time it right, obviously it kills me. I have to destroy this or build this up, something like that. Maybe there's one, if there were different variations, of course they could do something with that, but they didn't. But even without that, they could just use the dogs that they have in there, and there totally could have been way more puzzles that were like, all right, this can get you killed. Like, I didn't die in the game except for a couple of the moments where you get busted, and mostly I feel the scripted sequences. And the parts where I got busted, it was like I kind of just stepped into the light. Like, that was literally it. Like, you go into the light, and that's all it was. So it wasn't like you're being chased. You have to figure out the patterns of the enemies as they're doing this and that. The only pattern you have to figure out is, are they turning left or are they turning right? And as they do that pattern, just make sure you're blocked behind something, you're in the shadow, and you're good to go. So it's definitely disappointing in that regard when you look back at Inside as well as Limbo. And Inside, I don't remember having. There were a couple of parts I think it was like that water part or something where it was like super creepy and like out of nowhere it was like that one girl, or like I just remember that one part and it was just like out of nowhere they just had like a random creepy girl that would like chase you and kill you, and it was like, oh, okay, this is weird. Very creepy. I did enjoy that because I'm just like, that just came out of nowhere to just be like a mini horror segment. But it is unfortunate that that was just kind of missing here, like that element of being like, all right, you have to figure out how to use the powers you have to survive and deal with, like, you know, hopefully tougher puzzles, if I'm being totally honest. But I still enjoyed it. I like looking at it more than anything else. It just, you know, seeing, like I said it a bunch of times, like, man, I just love these landscape shots and this and that. So visually, it's my favorite one. Gameplay wise, sadly, it's my least favorite one. Excuse me. So feel like I spent a good amount of time sort of trashing on it. I would recommend only playing it if it was free, but honestly, I would say the same about Limbo and Inside as well. Limbo, I would say you could pay for it. I paid for Limbo back in the day and I don't regret that. I would say they've gone more and more cinematic, and oddly enough, I feel like they should lean towards action. Like I said, this one, if they weren't going to do puzzles, which they really didn't, they should have leaned more towards the action, and they kind of did because they had those scripted chase sequences, but they should have leaned more towards the action where it's like you could combat them, and it, you know, it wouldn't be like intense combat. You know, it's not going like from Zero to Devil May Cry / Bayonetta. It's just like, hey, I can freeze these dogs if they come at me. Maybe have like a couple of items that you can pick up, or, you know, if they do the flare thing, maybe have it where you can have like 3 flares at a time. They last a certain amount of time. They have like, you know, little, you know, they keep it very minimalist with their games. It could be something, you know, super simple where you can just see how much time you got. I'm sure they could find a way to do it where it's, you know, it's a minimalist way to show it, but something simple like that. I think they should move a bit towards action. Nothing crazy, but they're doing stories that don't have dialogue. They do stories that, you know, in this particular case, don't really have nearly as many puzzles as even Inside. I feel like Inside had like 3 times the puzzles. That's how I feel personally, compared to this. And that's just their last game. And like I said, Limbo was definitely the one where they had the most, and that was, you know, that was their very first one. So if they're definitely going the route of less puzzles, they got to put something in there, either less puzzles, or if it's less puzzles, they gotta start doing dialogue. They gotta add something. So either they add a little bit of action, or they have to start doing dialogue. And I think a part of their charm for the games is not having dialogue. You like just experience the story. It would be great though if they did actually just do full-on complete stories, because they could do it without the dialogue, but they just be like, hey, ending, and that's just how it keeps happening over and over again. But like I said, if we count the super secret ending, you know, purple ending, we did defeat the aliens. I couldn't tell you if the guy lived, but we defeated the aliens, and the dog lived, so the family lived, and then the dude actually helped save the world. So that is, yay. Other than that, I mean, I'm not gonna return to the game. I'm gonna look the extra stuff up, see what the little hidden things are, see if there's a third ending, which I wouldn't be surprised if there was, and that's really it. It's the same for Inside. It was the same for Limbo. Obviously I didn't look anything up back in the day for Limbo, other than what did people think about Limbo. But, you know, look up the extra little hidden secrets and stuff for the game, and then I'm done with it. And that's it. And that's what I would have expected no matter what, which is why I would not have bought the game myself anyway, just because I knew it was going to be that short. It's just one of those games where it's like, I just wouldn't have a reason to actually buy it unless it was like super duper cheap. It would have to be so cheap for me to want to buy it, because I would know I'm not going to play this game again. Maybe I'll get a couple random screenshots. I might do that. Well, I won't do that because I got this on Game Pass and it expires tomorrow, so I won't have that opportunity. But other than that, like getting like a couple of quick shots as far as like super beautiful looking wallpapers, other than that, there's really nothing from the game. You go through it, you either do the little secret stuff or you look up the secret stuff, and that's the game. And that's kind of what I expected. But I think it was fun. I do think it was fun. It's just unfortunate that when I do instantly look back on it, even though I just did it, it was fun in the moment, and then as soon as I look back on it, analytically speaking, and especially in comparison, having recently enough played Inside, it's like, yeah, this one was really lacking on the puzzle element. As soon as you end it, that's when you think about it, because in the moment, especially because I'm looking at the visuals. I'm like, I love looking at this more than the other two games. So it's like, man, this looks great, and these great shots and the sound design. And as soon as I beat it, I'm like, the game that I played was like a quarter of a puzzle game compared to Inside. And that's kind of where the whole point is supposed to be, is like puzzle. And now I understand that review a lot more now that I'm thinking about it. Like, yeah, it really was like, you know, you kind of just go from point A to point B more than anything else. And that's unfortunate for what their games kind of are meant to be. Based on what they made, that's what they're meant to be. But still enjoyed it, like I said. Would love to know your thoughts. I know this is like my ending, basically just doing a full-on review of what I think of the game, but that's what I think of the game. That's what I think of Somerville. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If not, please put it down in the comment section below. If you did enjoy it, please put it down in the comment section below. But we'd love to know what you guys thought about this game, as in, I guess it would be the third in a trilogy, kind of like the Cornetto trilogy, which is the Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and then, is it At World's End? Yes, no. I think that's Pirates of the Caribbean. The End of the World. I always forget the third one because I always mix it up with the stupid Pirates of the Caribbean movie. So I always forget the name of the third one because it's either At World's End, which I'm pretty sure is, I think that's the Pirates of the Caribbean one. But point is, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost movies, the Cornetto trilogy. It's kind of like that. So you got your three. Somerville is the third one. We'd love to know that. Also, Aliens. Huh. Okay. We'd love to know your thoughts on that. So please put all your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.